All right, let's jump right in. We're looking at this incredible moment in history where a general basically looked at a massive island fortress.
A fortress that was supposed to be completely unconquerable.
Right, and he just decided, you know what? That's not an island anymore.
We are talking about Alexander the Great's siege of Tyre in 332 BC. It was a battle against people, but also, it was a battle against the sea itself.
And that geography was everything for Tyre, wasn't it? That was its entire defense.
It was. Tyre was this absolute jewel of the Phoenician ports, a major trade hub. But the main city, the real power center, was on an island,
How far out?
about 800 yards off the coast, so nearly half a mile.
Wow.
Yeah, and that gave them everything. Deep water, sheer cliffs, massive stone walls. For a land-based army, it really should have been impassable to capture.
So why even bother? Alexander's on this huge campaign to conquer the Persian Empire. Why stop for, what was it, 7 months to take this one little island? It seems like a distraction.
It seems like it, but it was absolutely critical. He couldn't just leave a powerful naval base like Tyre operating behind his lines.
It would have threatened his supply lines, right?
Exactly. They could have launched attacks, harassed his ships coming from Greece, maybe even cut him off entirely as he moved toward Egypt. He needed to control that entire coast. It was non-negotiable.
And the sources say it became personal for him, too.
Oh, very personal. When he first arrived, he asked for permission to enter the city. He wanted to make a sacrifice at their famous Temple of Melkart.
And they said no.
They said no. They politely told him he could use a different temple on the mainland. And for Alexander, that was, it was a direct insult, a challenge to his authority.
So he decided to make an example of them.
He was determined to prove that no fortress, no matter how well defended by nature, was beyond his reach.
Which brings us to his first plan, the one that sounds absolutely insane.
It does.
He doesn't have a big navy at this point, so his solution is just build a bridge.
Build a bridge. A massive stone and dirt structure. They called it a mole or a causeway. The idea was to literally connect the mainland to the island.
Where did they get all the materials for that?
Well, conveniently, there was a city called Old Tyre on the mainland. Alexander just had his army dismantle the ruins. Every stone, every piece of rubble was repurposed for the causeway.
So thousands of soldiers just became a construction crew.
Thousands of them, plus local laborers. It was a monumental project. And you have to picture it, they weren't just dumping rocks in the water.
What do you mean?
They had to build a foundation. So they were pounding these huge wooden piles, like stilts, deep into the sandy seabed to create a stable base.
All while under threat of attack.
Constantly. And the scale of this thing,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't some narrow little footbridge. The mole was designed to be 200 feet wide
200 feet? Why so wide?
because he wanted to roll his heaviest siege engines across it, his biggest catapults, his giant battering rams. This was going to be a highway for his army to walk right up to their front door.
At first, I imagine the work went pretty fast.
It did. Near the shore, the water was shallow, only a few feet deep. It was relatively easy going. But that didn't last.
The further they got, the harder it became.
Exactly. The seabed just dropped off. The water became much, much deeper, and the currents got stronger. The whole project was constantly at risk of being washed away by the sea.
And meanwhile, the Tyrians aren't just sitting there watching this happen.
Not at all. They knew if that causeway was completed, they were done for. So they used their navy, which was much better than Alexander's at the time.
What did they do?
They used these fast, maneuverable ships to just constantly harass the workers, sailing in close, firing arrows, launching rocks from catapults on their decks.
Making life miserable.
Absolutely. And they got clever, too. They actually sent divers swimming underwater to cut the anchor ropes of the Macedonian supply ships. Just pure sabotage.
So how did Alexander protect his workers?
He built 2 huge wooden towers right at the end of the mole, like mobile forts. They were covered in wet animal hides so they wouldn't catch fire easily.
And filled them with his own catapults.
Right, to fire back at the Tyrian ships and provide cover. But this defense just set the stage for, well, one of the most brilliant counterattacks of the whole siege.
The fire ship?
The fire ship. It was an act of genius born from desperation.
Oh, what was it exactly?
The Tyrians took an old, large transport ship, like a cargo vessel, and they packed it. They filled the lower decks with anything that would burn.
Oh, like what?
Dry wood, pitch, oil, sulfur. They basically built a massive floating bomb.
And then they just pushed it at the causeway.
They did better than that. They waited for a strong southerly wind. And they rigged these giant heavy masts on the ship, designed to hook onto Alexander's towers and pull them down.
That is devastatingly clever.
It was. When they let it go, it sailed straight for the end of the mole. The impact, the explosion, it created this huge inferno.
And it destroyed everything.
Everything. The fire just raced across the wooden parts of the causeway. It engulfed both of the siege towers. All that work, months of labor, just gone, up in smoke.
And the soldiers.
Many had to jump into the sea to escape the flames. Some drowned. Others were picked off by Tyrian ships. It was a complete disaster. A huge, huge setback. At that point, it really looked like the sea had won.
So that failure forces Alexander to completely rethink his strategy.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Alexander, the master of land warfare. He has to swallow his pride and admit that he can't take this island without a powerful navy.
And he needs one fast. So what does he do?
He goes on a diplomatic and military shopping spree. He goes to all the other Phoenician cities on the coast that had already surrendered. Places like Sidon and Byblos.
And he just asks for their ships.
He demands them. And you have to remember, these local kings could see which way the wind was blowing. The Persian Empire was crumbling. Siding with Alexander was the smart move.
And it wasn't just a few ships.
Not at all. The numbers are just staggering. The king of Cyprus alone gave him over 100 ships.
Wow.
So in a very short amount of time, Alexander suddenly has this massive fleet of over 200 warships.
And that completely flips the script.
Completely. Suddenly, he has the superior navy. So he immediately blockades both of Tyre's harbors. The city, which depends on the sea for everything, is now totally cut off.
No supplies, no reinforcement.
Nothing. They're trapped. And with this new fleet protecting the construction site, he orders his men to start again.
A second mole.
A second mole. This one even wider and stronger than the first. And his engineers learned from their mistakes. They actually angled this one differently to better handle the strong sea currents.
And this time, there were no fire ships.
No chance. The new fleet created a shield around the workers. The work could continue day and night, uninterrupted.
But even with the mole almost finished, he still had to get through those walls. You said they were incredibly thick.
Notoriously thick. Just ramming them from the causeway wasn't going to be enough. He needed to be able to attack the island from the water, from multiple angles.
And this is where the next big innovation comes in.
This is maybe the most radical idea of a whole siege. He invents ship-borne artillery.
What does that even mean?
He took his largest, most stable ships and mounted heavy siege engines directly onto their decks. Catapults, battering rams.
On a moving ship. How is that even possible?
It's an incredible engineering challenge. I mean, you have to account for the recoil of a catapult, the swinging of a ram, all on a deck that's constantly pitching and rolling in the waves.
Yeah.
But it let him move his biggest weapons to any point on the wall he wanted.
The Tyrians must have seen this coming.
They did. And they came up with another clever defense. They started dropping huge boulders into the water right at the base of their walls.
Creating an underwater barrier.
Exactly. A sort of minefield to keep the assault ships from getting close enough for the rams to connect.
And Alexander's response.
Another counter-innovation. He brought in specialized crane ships, basically vessels with heavy lifting equipment, and just started pulling the boulders out of the water.
He's dredging a path to the wall.
He's clearing a path. For 7 months, you have to imagine the noise, this constant barrage from land and now from the sea. There was just no rest for the defenders.
And eventually, something had to give.
It did. After weeks of relentlessly pounding the same spots, the ship-borne rams finally broke through a section of the southern wall. A huge breach.
And that was the signal.
That was it. Alexander himself led the first charge, leading an assault from a ship that had a boarding bridge. At the exact same time, his land army charged across the finished mole.
Attacking from land and sea simultaneously?
The defense just collapsed. It was completely overwhelming. He had done it. He had achieved what everyone thought was impossible.
But the victory was brutal. The aftermath is pretty grim.
It's a very sobering look at Alexander's character. He was furious. Furious that Tyre had cost him 7 months, that they had defied him so stubbornly.
So what happened to the city?
The historical accounts are clear. Thousands of citizens were killed in the fighting as the city was stormed.
And the survivors.
Many thousands were rounded up and sold into slavery. This wasn't just revenge, it was a message.
A warning to every other city in the region.
A very loud and clear warning. If you resist me, this is your fate. And it worked. Cities like Jerusalem saw what happened to Tyre and surrendered without a fight.
But the most amazing consequence, the thing that lasts to this day, is what happened to the mall itself.
Right. That 200-foot wide stone road he built in the sea wasn't temporary.
It's still there.
In a way. Over the centuries, the sea currents pushed sand and silt up against the causeway. It just built up and up.
And eventually,
Eventually, it filled in completely. The process turned the island of Tyre into a permanent peninsula. It's connected to the mainland to this day,
he literally changed the map. He changed the geography of the world to win one battle.
which is why the siege of Tyre is still studied today. It's this perfect example of how innovation, persistence, and combining land and naval power can overcome almost any obstacle.
Even the ocean itself.
Yeah, the fortress was designed to be invincible. But Alexander's willingness to adapt, to learn from a catastrophic failure, and just apply relentless pressure, that's what won the day.
It's an incredible lesson that if your will is strong enough, you really can reshape the world around you to meet your goal.
A powerful lesson for anyone facing a tough challenge.
Good luck with your studies.